Tonight, new evidence captured in Lake Okanagan. Does a giant serpent or family of serpents inhabit this huge lake in Canada? This researcher says yes, and with the aid of underwater sonar, may have just unlocked another clue to the mystery of Ogopogo. In West Africa, 1983, Owen Burnham stumbles across the carcass of a large sea creature that washed up on shore near a famous resort. The mystery animal later disappeared, but not before Owen took detailed measurements of the specimen, which later became known as the infamous Gambo.
British Columbia's Lake Okanagan may have a relic of the past. For over 200 years, the natives of the Okanagan Valley believe they've encountered a strange serpent-like creature, and they call it Nahaiku, the snake in the lake. However, it wasn't until the 19th century that the name Ogopogo became famously known by the local community. Tonight, you'll hear about the endeavors of Peter Beach, a microbiologist who went to Lake Okanagan to discover new evidence that could prove the existence of these elusive serpents. But first, the story of Gambo, the strange sea creature that washed on the shore of West Africa in 1983. What happened to the body? Was a sample taken? Join us, and perhaps you too will believe.
There's a good chance we're dealing with an organic creature, or we're dealing with supernatural entity.
Pterosaurs, according to evolution, have been extinct for 70 million years or so.
Our objective to research information that describes the truth about the entire cosmos.
And the name of the business is SJ Polygraph, which is directly behind me, where the examination will be taking place.
There's very good evidence that is indicating that they still are alive.
On June 12, 1983, 15-year-old Owen Burnham, a wildlife enthusiast, and his family were vacationing in Gambia, West Africa. While strolling along the Gambo beach resort, the young teenage boy stumbled across the carcass of a marine reptile, which has since become known as Gambo. The carcass of the Gambo, also called Kunthumbaleen in the native language, was carefully examined by Owen. Enthralled by his discovery, in his own words, "It was a real shock. I could not believe this creature was lying in front of me." Owen decided to take measurements and then make sketches because he did not have a camera at the time. Gambo was not found in a state of decomposition. It had the appearance of being recently deceased. Thus, Gambo is sometimes given as a counterexample to the claim that all sea serpent bodies that are washed ashore are misidentified because they are in an advanced state of decomposition. According to later testimony, Owen Burnham did not think to take a sample until after he realized he could not identify it in any books. According to Owen, local villagers called it a dolphin, but that was likely only because of the superficial similarity. The story of Gambo later surfaced again 3 years later in 1986. With the publishing of the story, it helped to capture public interest and the attention of cryptozoologist Carl Schuker. Schuker requested more information on the carcass. According to Owen, the carcass showed little or no signs of decomposition and measured around 15 feet or 4.6 meters in length. The coloration was brown on top and white below, and the skin itself was smooth. The most specific measurements were taken on the head, which was 4.5 feet or 1.4 meters in length. It had a beak measuring 2.5 feet or 0.76 meters long, 80 uniform and conical teeth. The tail was long and pointed and measured around 5 feet in length. 3 years later, in 1986, Carl Schucker, a well-known cryptozoologist, received a letter from Owen detailing his encounter. At the time, Owen was unfamiliar with the term cryptozoology. This interview by Schucker helped to illuminate the field for Owen and the many different creatures associated with it.
A definition of cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is quite literally translated a study of hidden life or study of hidden animals, but more specifically it's the scientific investigation of those animals which have yet to be verified or at least formally identified by science, by the scientific community.
What animals would this include?
They're a wide range. The famous ones that everyone thinks of, sea monsters, the Yeti, Bigfoot, dare I say, the Loch Ness Monster, creatures like that. But also there are a lot of others. A huge species of vulture-like bird reported from North America, a strange dinosaur-like creature from the Congo swamps, and of course famously the big cats which roam Great Britain and other parts of the world. So we're looking at quite a variety of different creatures. That's just a handful. There are about 300 on the type of general cryptozoological list of creatures we hope to discover at some stage in the future.
How much or how many of these are just pure myth and legend, and how many are real creatures that just are so elusive we haven't yet seen enough of them to be able to say they're there?
One of the big problems with cryptozoology is deciding which of the mystery animals on file are real but undiscovered and which are purely mythical. And that the chances are in most cases they're a bit of both. Often the local people in a given area of the world will report a dramatic creature, a dragon or a ferocious man-eating monster, something like that, which sounds like myth, sounds like legend, but when investigated it's proven to be a real creature but elaborated by folklore and by superstition. The man-eating, flesh-eating ogres of Africa were actually discovered in the 1840s and found to be the gorilla, which of course are not man-eating or flesh-eating, but they are big. They do look ferocious, their temperament is very different, but that was the basis of that legend. And then there was a forest donkey that lived again in the Congo jungles. That was found to be the okapi, a short-necked giraffe. So there was what seemed to be a legendary animal come to life.
There has been a great deal of speculation as to what the carcass could have been in life. Some, such as paleontologist Darren Niche, questions whether the carcass ever existed in the first place. Niche expresses doubt that the carcass was real and finds it suspicious that no sample was ever taken. Perhaps Gambo was a rotting carcass of another known animal. One of the most famous examples of this hypothesis is the Zeomaru carcass. The Zeomaru was a Japanese fishing vessel that dredged up a mysterious carcass off New Zealand in 1977. While some considered it to be the remains of a dead plesiosaur, chemical analysis of horny fibers taken from the carcass proved to be nearly identical to elastidin, a protein commonly found in baskin sharks. The story of Gambo is exciting and yet a sad one. Cryptozoologist Chris Orrick proposed that it was a severely mangled shepherd's beaked whale, that it was twisted so that the dorsal fin and genital slit lined up, giving the appearance of a torn-off limb. A surviving mosasaur, a group of 20 genera that included some of the largest marine reptiles ever, frequently exceeding 33 feet in length. Schucker proposed initially that it was either a pliosaur, but later referred to it as the last of the mosasaurs. As researchers, we can only imagine just what kind of profound impact a newly discovered carcass would have on the cryptozoological or paleontology community. A 2006 expedition by the Center for 14 Zoology failed to uncover any remains of the creature at the alleged burial site. In fact, the researchers learned that Gambo was later decapitated by local villagers. It apparently took the men 20 minutes to hack through the skin. The head was sold to a tourist. Its body was then buried, never to be seen again. In the words of Owen Burnham, the skeleton of Ichthyosaurus, not the head, is quite similar if you imagine the fleshed animal with a pointed tail instead of flukes. I am not looking to find a prehistoric animal, only to try and identify what was the strangest thing I'll ever see. Even now, I can remember every minute, every detail of it. To see such a thing was awesome.
The RRN Ropen Radio Network is brought to you by 511 Tactical. Always be ready. By Creation Evidence Museum of Texas. God's Word in 6 days. And by the Wildlife Safari, America's top cheetah breeding program. You are closer to Africa than you think.
Next, new evidence for Ogopogo, a one-on-one with Peter Beach. Joining me today in the studio to talk more about his latest efforts is Peter Beach. Welcome, Peter, to the network. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're going to go over a lot of questions. We're going to go over a lot of research. An exciting trip that you and Wayne Hall took and embarked on. And I know that you've been to Okanagan more than once, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. September is when this took place. Was it mid or late September?
It's mid-September.
Okay. I believe you have come across some new evidence that you're going to be able to share with all of us to enlighten us more about what we're dealing with in this lake system. And this is a huge lake. I want to say it's 164 miles, maybe. Maybe it's kilometers, maybe.
Oh, kilometers, maybe.
Yeah.
I figure it's about 80 miles long, 2 miles wide, mostly average.
Depth is 761 feet. That's pretty deep. So there's more likely there could be quite a bit of mysterious creatures inhabiting this lake system. I wonder if there might be variants of some sort instead of just one particular, but we'll find out. Before we begin the research part, tell me again, you have an extensive background. I know you consider yourself a microbiologist, which you are. What else are you a part of? What else is your profession?
Well, I wasn't very good at it, but biochemistry.
Okay.
I've taught at professor level, and I was a teacher at a high school for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 U.S. patents on medical devices, and then I do this for fun.
That's right. I remember hearing about those patents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And those were... those efforts for those devices were implemented, weren't they?
No, not yet.
Oh, still working on it then?
Still working on it.
Oh, let me know how that goes. I'm curious about the Valley of Okanagan, Peter. What can you enlighten us about this whole area, which could hold this creature?
It was formed during the glaciation period, and the evidence for that is very obvious. You can see huge scrapings and large erratics around the area. One of the main towns is on a moraine that is the end of the glacier. That'd be Penticton.
Mm.
And there are other lakes further up, further north, further east, and further west too, that are much like Okanagan. In fact, our friend who works in Canada and also is very interested in this subject thinks that there's this animal is probably in other lakes that aren't that far away, maybe another
Most
80
likely.
miles away.
Yeah. Yeah. I was told that this lake could be very calm and then become a raging lake from one moment to the next. That's not due to the season, or is it just the particular lake it is?
Well, I think it's the shape too.
Okay.
It's part of it is shaped east to west, and part of it is shaped mostly north to south. Kind of bends in the middle, and depending on where the low pressure is, it can get from sunny and calm to pretty tornado-like inside of a few hours.
Wow. So it makes you wonder if you should be on a raft or should you be on a boat.
We've tried both.
Okay.
I prefer the boat, but we've done it by raft.
Yeah, it takes me back to what others have said who've researched water phenomena. And it's a lot of money. It's very costly, but you guys did it a particular way that I think was very cost effective. Now, you did use instrumentations that helped to potentially prove that there's something there. Was it side scan sonar?
We use side and down scan sonar.
Okay.
It's called a chirp technology.
Enlighten me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm not an expert in that,
Okay.
but all I can tell you is I sent you some pictures.
Yes, you did.
One was a green screen. It was kind of like people think sonar is like this beeping, boing, boing thing.
I see that here,
you
yeah.
can pick up a point and you can see where this point is. This is nothing like that. It's almost like taking a picture. I also sent you a picture of an underwater, it's a tree. And you can almost see every limb, every partial, end of the limb, as clearly as I can see a tree from, 20 feet away.
Okay.
That's the technology now. Now, that's a professional using all the capabilities of the sonar unit that I was using. But even an amateur like me using sonar can get a really good picture. It's almost like taking a picture. It's not, because, for example, wind causes waves, and waves make the boat go up and down. And when it goes up and down, the transponder moves up and down and gives you kind of a jiggly picture.
I see.
Also, it depends on the boat's movement. The faster it moves, the more jagged the picture. The slower it moves, the more details it can pick up.
Okay. Interesting. Is this a very expensive piece of equipment?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Maybe $500, something like that.
Not too bad.
No.
Something that someone can actually pick up and learn how to use.
Yeah, there are good ones and there are bad ones. There
Okay.
are cheap ones, and then you can get cost effective. I think I got the best for the money.
Okay. So the boat that you used, it was a boat or it was a raft?
We've used boats and rafts.
You used both?
Yeah, we've
At
tried both.
during this trek?
This time was just boats.
Okay.
But there are small boats, 12-foot boats.
Okay. Interesting, because when I think about the motors, I've brought this up a few times with those who do water research. I wonder if it scares these creatures.
I think we were fortunate in that all we could afford were electric motors.
Okay.
And I think the electric motor has something to do with our success because it's so quiet.
Okay.
And it doesn't create extra energy in the water column. And I think that's part of it.
Okay. Nice. Good to know. So let's get into these images that may have captured something. The locals in Okanagan Valley, they really don't like the name Ogopogo. They prefer the name Nahaitku, or if I even pronounce that correctly. They were actually trying to commission for a big wooden statue to be built overlooking Rattlesnake Island that's supposed to be unveiled. And they're still working on that. I think legislation is trying to push that through. But a lot of the natives are like, no, we don't want it. But the tourism's really high in this area. It could be Canada's Loch Ness, where people would actually flock more to it. I know it's got me intrigued. It has you going there. But make no mistake, there's some sort of serpentine creature that's being seen here? And we're going to go through that. I'm going to go through a couple of possible theories of what it could be, but it seems like you and Wayne captured something on this sonar that could actually provide new evidence as to what Ogopogo is. So let's start that. I know you have some images. Let's go through them.
Okay. Well, the first image, I took probably the worst image to show you what we can get. The image here is what I'm looking at. It's a down scan and a side scan. You can tell because you see the side of the ground this way, and you're looking down on it this way. So you have a down scan and a side scan.
I see.
You actually can see the animal, if it is an animal, or if it's just a tree coming out of the bottom or a log or something like that, how tall it is. And that's using this on the right. The sonar actually gives you the depth of the water. Because you know the depth of the water, you can also use it as a kind of a ruler as to how long the whatever it is you see. 4 feet, 6 feet. If it actually is debris here rather than the animal, okay, so it's shorter than that. So it would be something less than 12 feet. But if you add the things up, both side scan and down scan together give you two different views of the thing. So if it's mostly sideways, you get a good down view, but you wouldn't get much of a side view.
You got quite a bit there.
Yeah. On this one, you don't see much here. You see some squiggles and so forth. But when you start looking at the down scan and side scans, you're starting to pick something up here. A serpentine sort of shape.
On the down scan. All right. There's a serpentine shape.
And this is the side scan of the same.
Okay. Side scan shows serpentine shape.
Right. The same animal seen at a slightly later date. There's the turn. We can tell when we turn. When we pick up something on the sonar, we turn around and follow the bubbles back and try to, hit the same animal again.
See.
So after turning, we have this. We see the animal is now changed shape. Now had 3 twists. Now it only has maybe, it's 3 twists, but they're different.
When you say it's changed shape, does that maybe not support that it's a serpentine creature?
No, I think it does support it's a serpentine creature. You can see this shape right here is different than this shape right here. It's different.
Because he's moving through.
Yeah. Now, if you keep following it, the third one is the same animal. We turned again, and we came back, and if we found something. Now, that's the only thing we found at that area, that same place in the water column and the same place on the map. We found this. What it is, I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
It looks very strange.
Yeah, it does. I can detect a head there. Maybe.
Where?
Maybe flippers?
Maybe.
Well, it's kind of looking at the image is still a little rough, but
yeah,
I guess some people, when they look at clouds, they see something, but I don't want to compare it to that.
You can tell by looking here. See these tooths, these teeth kind of marks here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the bottom. And when you see the tooth marks like this, you can tell that we've got choppy water, so that the boat is bouncing a little bit. And that's one of the reasons that we have a little chop area, or areas that are missing. Not many, but there's some that are missing.
Okay.
So there's some information that's missing when we're bouncing a little bit.
Oh, I see. Wow, excellent. Has anyone else recorded these kind of images?
No.
Really?
There's one image that I've seen that I can't even interpret. It just looks like a wavy veil. But that was by someone else, and it really has no details other than just a wavy veil.
Yeah, well, I'm shocked. Have you had a lot of people contact you lately involved with this field, or just researchers in general?
No.
No. Okay. So it's not necessarily public yet, maybe? Or
well, we have done a YouTube program on this.
Yeah, saw that.
And I don't do the YouTube, and so Wayne is the one that does that. He gets comments. He gets questions. I'm just at home. I don't really have any connection to the YouTube channel other than that I put up my heart and soul into it.
Well, this is fantastic imagery here. It's like, it definitely needs to be brought out into limelight so people can see there's something going on in this lake. Truly is. You have a lot of eyewitnesses along this region who have seen this creature over the decades, over the centuries. You have a Native American lore, well, not American, Canadian lore, that speaks of these creatures. They call it the snake in the lake, which is the name Nahiku. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, we ready for the next one?
Okay. Well, that one was 17 to 18 feet.
Okay, serpentine animal, approximately 17 to 18 feet.
This one I call my seahorse. Imagine seeing something like that on the screen. When I first saw it, of course, I said, turn around, let's throw a buoy out. So we threw a buoy out, and we got a nice picture of the buoy, or a sonar of the buoy. So it's not a giraffe or anything like that.
Okay, I was wondering about that image there.
It's a strange, that strange thing. You can see where the rock hit the bottom and kicked up a lot of mud. This, by the way, the surface is sandy mud.
Sandy mud.
And I think that's another one of the reasons that we found the animal. They inhabit areas that are where they can have a home in this sandy mud and thick mud. We're talking probably 20 feet thick.
I see. That is thick.
Yeah. You can tell by the density of this. It's pretty deep, mud.
And the header says large animal possibly with fish in mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. See this right here? That would be about a 2-foot fish if it was something hanging out of its mouth. Other than that, I can't explain it.
Okay. Now, for the skeptic who might say, how can you determine that just by looking at something that's...
Oh, I can't. I can't say that that's a fish. But I know this is debris.
Yep.
This is debris.
That's being kicked up.
And this is a harder, this is a denser thing. This was an animal.
Yeah.
Because it's moving. We came back and we found it again, and it's going back into the ground, apparently.
Okay. So it's going back into the ground.
Yeah. This is probably when it's coming out, or it's sitting on the bottom. It's going up, probably fishing.
Ah. Okay, so we're getting some ideas here. At least I think Pete knows. I'm definitely taking in something.
This is the animal. It's probably from here to about here. It's all difficult to see here. All of this, and you can see it in the side scan. This is not a tyrannosaur standing on the bottom. This is mud and sand that's being kicked up, mostly.
Yes, because something is moving there.
Yeah.
Either coming up or burrowing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow.
And there have been other. They did some scuba diving years ago, and they found holes. And at one point, they spooked an animal, a fairly large animal, out of a hole or out of a. It's kind of like this, where it created a trough, large depression, and kicked up a lot of sand and mud. Yeah. That was, I think, more around Ogopogo Island, Rattlesnake Island.
Or Squally Point, I think they also call it. Have you been on that island?
3 times.
3 times, okay. They call it Rattlesnake because it once was infested with rattlesnakes?
Probably, I don't know.
How big is this island? Is it
good
size?
It's just maybe 100 yards long and 50 yards wide at the widest.
Okay. I think that what everybody's saying is it makes its home underneath this island, potentially, because they've seen it come out of it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. My only sighting on the surface was at Rattlesnake Island in the channel. There's a very shallow channel between the island and the mainland, and it was in there we were moving rubber rafts around, and I happened to see the animal come out, stuck its head out.
Stuck its head out.
Yeah, it was its head was out of the water, and I was kind of so shocked I wasn't even afraid. I was just kind of, what is that? I wasn't expecting anything. It was getting toward the end of the day, and it was in the twilight.
What year was that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you exactly.
Well, when you say you saw a head come out of the water, stick its head out, this is where Bill Stusiak, who's one of the researchers out there, I don't know what he's doing anymore, or if he's even given it up or so. He mentions that it's very big looking. Compared it to something of a salamander face of some sort. He even has a strange image of it, like some sort of strange ball sticking out of the water. Is that close to what you saw?
Yeah, it looked like a telephone pole with a derby.
Oh.
It's rounded.
How
I couldn't
out?
see any details like a nose or mouth or anything, or eyes.
Depending on how far away you were from it, too.
I was approximately 30 yards.
30 yards,
like that.
Okay. How long was his head?
It was about 2 feet out of the water,
Just 2
so
feet.
I don't know what part of it was his head. But it was, like a telephone pole wide.
Yeah.
So
good to know, folks. See, Peter's an eyewitness of this creature himself, so that's good. Wow.
When it happened, I didn't even talk about it that until later in the next day, because I didn't know what to say to Wayne. I didn't know if I'd had an apparition or a brain something. It was just a shock. We did all of these scannings in the morning and in the evening, but mostly in the morning. And I think it tells us something about this animal and its habits. We have here every one of the sonar pictures that I showed you, we had a time stamp on it. So I put the time stamps here as sightings, separate sightings, not multiple sightings, just one sighting. This is where we saw it. This is the time that we saw the animal.
Morning sonar evidence time distribution.
Right. So if that's sunrise, twilight and then sunrise, we'd start at 5:30 roughly, and we'd go until about 8:30. We found that worked out best.
Okay.
But you can see the distribution there. You can see that they feed or come out at sunrise, and then they stay out, and then they are gone.
Wow.
So if you want to find these animals,
You pinpointed a time.
You have to go at the right time of day, or you're just wasting your time.
Morning.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going out afternoon.
We had a few in the afternoon at sundown. So they feed at sundown and sunrise.
Okay. We have 5:30, and you're saying from 5:30 to 8:30. Well, actually, I'm seeing 5:30 to 8 a.m. There's a good possibility, a strong possibility, these creatures are feeding during these times, and this is the best time to observe them.
Right.
Good to know. Hear that?
I think we can apply that to all of these different lake creatures. Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
We had another sighting that I wanted to get into a little bit because I thought it was it was the first day that we went out, and within 30 seconds of turning on the sonar, I saw this. And you might look and you say, well, I don't see very much there. That's not enhanced. That's what I saw. And I immediately said, turn around. And nobody was ready for this. We were towing a boat and we were getting out to where we wanted to go. We weren't ready for this. And we were only at 14 feet. And we were trying to get to 20 feet, 20, 25 feet, 30 feet, something like that. Well, at any rate, I saw this. I said, turn around. And we turned around, and these slots here, what happened was we were towing a boat, and the rope caught on the transponder and knocked the transponder out of its position. I immediately said, to Wayne, please put the transponder back. And so he tried to put it back, and then it popped up again. And he tried to put it back, and it popped up again, and tried to put it back. He finally got it down, and just as he got it down, moving back the opposite direction that we had just come, I got this.
Oh, wow.
I made a model of what I saw here. If you can't see this, look at this. There are two animals, and they're coming together at an angle. And when we came to the second picture, they're parallel to one another, and you can see them rather clearly.
I see. So it says closer look at the animal sonar images, and what we're seeing here is some very serpentine-looking specimens. Estimated size, Pete?
Oh, I think they were roughly 15 feet, something like that, 16, 14.
Still very large.
Yeah. Oh, much larger than any fish that they know about.
Yeah. Makes me wonder about the circumference of them. Just how round are these guys? How wide are these guys? If you look at something that's 15 feet, then obviously he's got to be a good size around.
Well, that's part of the story. We also had an underwater camera, and the underwater camera we were towing in the second boat, and I asked him if he could find any holes, and he saw anything, and he says, yeah, I've seen some holes. I said, well, see if you can get a video of the holes. Well, he finally did, and I asked him how big it was, and he said, well, from my estimation, he said it was about the size of a football, or maybe a little bit bigger. So we're talking about a size, something like this. So we're talking about an animal that could be, this animal, for example, could be that big around. What is that, a foot? Something like that.
Yeah. How long were you there, Pete?
We were there for a week.
A week? Wow, that's really good.
Well, we came up on Saturday. No, we came up on Saturday, and we left on a Saturday.
Okay.
We were able to go out on the water twice a day, maybe 3 times.
Okay. Now we get to something very exciting. What is this thing? And I do believe that we may be on par with what it is. But I have some doubts. But I'd like to hear from Peter about this one. So go ahead. Tell us what you think this thing potentially is. And if it deals with some of your slides as well, let's point that out too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't willing to say what I thought it was until I was watching a YouTube about, in Scotland, the Loch Ness Monster type thing. And the latest was this one fella says, I think I know what it is. He said, I think it's an eel, a giant eel. And I thought, well, that's what I thought it was. And now he's saying he thinks it's an eel. Maybe I ought to come out and tell people what I think it is. And I think it is a large eel, a specific kind of eel, not just a long, sinuous
There's different
blob.
variants. Yeah.
There are many different kinds
Yeah,
of
there is. Yeah.
eels, and I wanted to, well, this is all speculation now. Okay, so know that. The sonar is one thing. An interpretation of the sonar has some speculation.
Yeah.
But this, I think, is probably what it is.
Okay. Okay. I'm curious by some of those slides that you had there that might enlighten a little bit more about this eel. What can you share with us?
Okay. Well, first off, what do I think an eel? An eel can be quite large.
Okay.
And they can be fish eaters. They probably are all fish eaters almost all fish eaters. Some of them can be quite large. King snake eel, conger eel, even moray eels can be quite large.
Yeah.
Although this is probably an illusion because of the camera angle. Although it looks large and scary, actually the fang snake eel is not that big. It's only a few feet. But I was interested in the eel anatomy because it seems to match the sonar images that I've seen.
Okay.
There don't seem to be dorsal fins. There don't seem to be large pectoral fins or hind legs or a tail like a dinosaur, kind of a tail. It seems to be like a fan of some sort, like you would find on a regular fish. Also, the animal, eels, can move in a sinuous manner, an undulating manner.
Okay.
They don't have to move like a fish,
like a snake.
side to side, like a snake.
Okay. Good to know.
They also have teeth.
Yep.
If
Yes,
they
they do.
are fishing, they have to be able to grab onto the animal. Something about eels that most people don't know, they have two sets of jaws. It's kind of like the alien picture where you had the large mouth and then you had a mouth on the inside. Well, they actually have something like that, where they can project this pharyngeal jaw and grab the end of the fish and then draw it back in, and so they have two sets of teeth. Another thing about, well, this would say that it's an ambush predator.
Yeah.
And I think that if they had fish in their mouth from our sonars, then that would be logical. Eels are primarily carnivores, not all of them, but primarily. Some say the Ogopogo they've seen horns on the animal.
Yes, I've heard those counts.
Okay, well, they can have something that looks like a horn.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have these projections, nasal projections, and that could also be misinterpreted as a horn. Some eels, like the garden eels, pair bond. And here they are, garden eels. So garden eels are fairly small animals, but they do pair. And this animal seems to pair. Another thing, Ogopogo doesn't seem to have a dorsal fin running, at least of the visible part of the animal. It's on the surface that's doing the undulations. Not all eels have dorsal fins. This one right here doesn't have dorsal fins. The electric eel doesn't have dorsal fins.
That's true.
Some have no fins, some have dorsal, some have caudal, all sorts of combinations. So you can't say anything depending on if there is any finnage, if that means anything really. They can also do the undulations with facing forward,
just like a snake,
like the ribbon eel.
Yeah.
And some have been found on dry land, or some say that the Ogopogo has gone on dry land. Some say that the
I've heard that
Loch Ness, that the animal has been seen on dry land.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if that's true or not.
Again, those are eyewitness testimonies.
Eyewitness testimonies.
Yeah, I think that what separates Okanagan and Ogopogo from the others is that it does lean towards a serpentine creature of some sort. We could automatically try to put some creatures into this mix. Basilosaurus, Cadborosaurus, maybe. The thing is that they don't dig. Not that we know of. So if this creature is digging, that sure fits the eel, because they dig, they burrow. When I look at testimonies going back years, one of the first ones I remember hearing about was Aaron Neely in 1977. The 70s were a hot time for sightings all over the world when it came to cryptids.
I remember.
Well, yeah. What's interesting about her encounter is she crashed into this thing, water skiing, and she came face to face with it. And she was livid. They could not calm her down. They had to almost sedate her because of what she saw. Granted that if you came face to face with an eel, that would scare you too. But Erin insisted what she saw was a monster. Something worse. Big, large in size. But not much else that she would report after that. And she did not want to go back to Okanagan Lake. She refused to go water skiing in there. If you come across an eel that's big, It'll scare you, but you may still venture out again. But this one just was enough to be so profound that it left a mark on her in some way. So when I, as an investigator of this field, I look at all these testimonies. You mentioned back and neck too. Maybe that's just, maybe the eels can do that. They can bring up their head and their neck and what you think you see a body, it's actually just the rest of their long serpentine structure. And it would seem like maybe we're dealing with variants here. And maybe we're not. Maybe this is a very large eel of some sort. I just don't know of anything else that would want to burrow into the surface like this does. And you look at the native lore, they talk about something that is very big, but again, referring to the snake in the lake. So again, it fits. We have these strange protrusions, these horns that people have seen. That could be an eel. Yet they describe something far more than that. One of the latest images that surfaced, you may have seen this.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that could be wood. Who knows? But if it is the creature, this is a big creature too. There could be small ones. There could be very large ones in circumference. But something else surfaced not too long ago that I found that could help shed some more light on the eel. And I'd like to read that to you. Bear with me, okay? Sure. June 7th, 2016. Electric eels leap from water to attack in shock. We all know electric eels have that capability. And there are eyewitness testimonies of these things leaping out of the water and eating seagulls. As some boys actually encountered that. Again, we're dealing with eyewitness testimony.
This is Ogopogo now.
This is Ogopogo.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And some people say, okay, well, eyewitness testimony is not credible. Well, hold on a second. The judicial system still uses eyewitness testimony to solve crimes. I think it's just as important. So we'll keep that in mind. But the fact that it's leaping out and grabbing, would an eel want to do that to a seagull? I wonder. Are they that carnivorous? They would go after, we'll know they'll eat fish, but will they go after seagulls too? If they're feeling threatened, would they do it? Well, maybe this article sheds some light on the subject. Defensive electrocution of a fake alligator adds to the Annals of Electric Fish Behavior by Lawrence Dennis and Nature magazine. Thus, this must be one of the most bizarre videos to accompany a scientific paper this year. An electric eel leaping out of a tank to shock a fake alligator head. The experiment, which demonstrates how eels react to half-submerged predators by leaping up out of the water and administering defensive volleys of high-voltage electricity, is the brainchild of Kenneth Katina and biologist of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Katina first spotted the behavior during early laboratory experiments with electric eels when they would leap upwards to attack a metal-rimmed net as he was trying to fish them out of their tanks. He analyzed it by presenting the eels with carbon rods and aluminum plates, at which they struck the video's plastic alligator with its flashing light-emitting diodes that are powered by the eel's electrocution. Is this dramatic demonstration of the effect? The results are published this week in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. One of the biggest questions about eels is still unresolved. No one knows how an eel can electrocute its victims without shocking itself. So this may add some credibility to the fact that we're dealing with an eel species. Wow, excellent information, Peter. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, next year we plan to go, and we're adding one person to our team, and that person does forensic analysis. He was a marine biologist, but he was also a detective for police force, and one of his techniques that he has developed is analyzing eyewitness accounts. So we're adding someone who's interested and thinks the animal is probably a reptile to our team.
I like it.
Doesn't bother me a bit.
No. He might be able to uncover something that someone else missed. That's the nice thing about having extra people join your team.
I'm not afraid to know.
Nope. I want to thank Peter Beach for his time and this amazing demonstration of all the research that him and Wayne Hall had brought forth to the Ropen Network, share with all of us and our audience. And please promote it. We need more people to know about the work that they're doing. And what an experience. I've always wanted to go to Lake Okanagan. The mystery behind it. I mean, you hear about the reports of a possible living dinosaur-like aquatic marine reptile of some sort. I still like the eel. I think it leans towards it. But I love the theory of a dinosaur as well. Who doesn't? Anything else you'd like to add, Pete, before we end?
I can't think of anything.
Thank you again for being here, sir.
You're welcome.
For every encounter, there is a mystery. And for every mystery, there is someone somewhere who has a missing clue. Perhaps that someone is watching. Perhaps that someone is you.